thank you again for being here today. And special thanks to our friends in the media who are here for attending. You guys support us well, and we appreciate that. I'm Beth Bridges, and I am the chairwoman of the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce this year. Now, this event marks the first chamber event for this week, which also happens to be Chamber of Commerce Week in Texas. So it's only appropriate that we're focusing on something that will affect many of our 2,000 member businesses. We're here today to issue an important reminder to businesses regarding changes to the Department of Labor's changes to the FLSA overtime rule. We're just 45 days out from December 1st when the drastic changes to overtime regulations will be in effect. The Lubbock Chamber is one of more than 50 plaintiffs who have filed a federal lawsuit to block the regulations, but we are still urging Lubbock employers to be ready for the rule change on or by December 1st. As a reminder, when the new regulations go into effect on December 1st, currently salaried employees making less than $47,476 per year will have to punch a clock and be paid time and a half compensation if they work more than 40 hours a week. This new threshold more than doubles the current salary threshold of $23,660 and updates the threshold every 3 years. This higher salary threshold will mean that many employers will have to reclassify some employees as hourly employees and pay them overtime, as well as deploy time clocks or other time tracking tools and plan for the impact on their business models and services. We're joined today by a couple of local employers who have been actively planning and dealing with this drastic change that we believe goes too far. And I'd like to invite them to be here with us and share their experiences and impressions of this new regulation. First, please join me in welcoming Lubbock Chamber Board Member Dave Marcinkowski, who is principal with Madeira Companies. Dave.
Thanks, Beth, and thanks to the Chamber for this opportunity to get up here and hopefully get the word out regarding this very troubling new rule that the Department of Labor has put out. My name is Dave Marcinkowski. I am one of the owners of a company called the Madeira Companies here in Lubbock, Texas. We buy, sell, and manage apartments across Texas. We would probably classify as a larger small business. One of the other hats that I wear is I'm the current Texas Apartment Association president. I also have a gentleman who works with me named Jeff Lowry, who in 2018 will be the chairman of the National Apartment Association. And our association involvement, whether that's the chamber or with the apartment side of things, is heavy. And I can tell you, as somebody who represents those groups, we're all very troubled by this, and we're taking a very multi-pronged approach to try to take it on, like the chamber's coming together and suing. But it's important for you guys out there, small business owners like myself, all business owners, to take this very seriously and get on the ball, if you have not already, in developing systems to allow for you to stay compliant with this new change. One really good example of this is obviously the money side of things, but then you have a place like Madeira where the culture is, I'd say for lack of a better word, relaxed. We aren't clock watchers. And so people who work for us, know that they can go to their kids' lunchtime deal, or they can go to a soccer game or something that maybe starts early without having to worry about clocking in or clocking out. As long as they're getting their job done, we don't really care at Madeira. But the problem is in this scenario, we have to put a system in place that forces those people to have to clock in and clock out. Now you couple that with the fact that you're more than doubling the cost it's going to take in this sort of one-size-fits-all. And I think this is a critical piece that people don't understand about this change. Whether you're in San Francisco, Chicago, New York, or Lubbock, Texas, or some of our rural communities, it's the same rule. And so as somebody who lived in Chicago for 10 years, this rule would have had very little impact on me because our folks were all making well in advance of this dollar amount. In a place where the cost of living is so low, like Lubbock, this could cripple a business. I can tell you firsthand, it's going to prevent me from hiring people, which is really, really sad when we're looking in a world where we're trying to make it easier for businesses to hire folks and to employ folks and to keep people working. So I would encourage everyone to please get on the ball. You have 45 days. And I would also recommend one other thing. Look at your job descriptions. If you have an audit that takes place because of this, they're going to look at your job descriptions. And if you have very vague job descriptions, which a lot of small businesses do, I know we did for a long period of time. We took job descriptions as kind of like, okay, it's 2 or 3 sentences long. But if it doesn't fit within the requirements of what the DOL is saying, overtime rules should, is that person exempt, not exempt? How does that look? If your job description doesn't fit those rules, you could find yourself in big trouble. So I cannot encourage people enough to get going on this, to make the decisions necessary to protect your business, and hopefully we'll have some success legally to at least put an end to this, or to at least modify it, because I can tell you, it's the chamber, it's the apartment associations, it's not our job. We want people to make money. We want people to be paid what they're due. But let the market dictate that. Don't let the rules force that to happen. Last but not least, I'd like to make another shout out to the chamber. If you are a small to medium-sized business, the chamber is here to help you. And if you're wondering, is it really worth the dollars for dues to be a member of the chamber, I could not encourage it more. My company, my properties are all members of the chamber in all locations. You need an advocate, whether that's with me, the apartment association side of things, and the chamber, but you need someone who's out there who's looking out for your best interests. And this is the kind of thing that the chamber does. And so I could not encourage enough people to go out there who are not members to please join the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave, for sharing the realities of the situation that are coming in 45 days. We haven't said that already. Now, many have considered these changes to the overtime rule and the more than $1.2 billion negative impact to employers nationwide. Think of traditional business employers, but among the hardest hit employers that many don't think of are churches and nonprofit organizations, charities, and associations. We're also joined today by Robin Rainey, who is CEO with Goodwill Industries of Northwest Texas, as an example of one of those nonprofit organizations. Robin.
Thanks, Beth. Goodwill Industries is a nonprofit agency with a mission of creating job opportunities for people with a barrier to employment. A barrier can be anything that makes it difficult for an individual to find and keep a job. Not only is Goodwill a preferred employer of individuals with barriers to employment, we also provide free job search assistance and job readiness training in the communities we serve, including beginning, intermediate, and advanced computer classes. For many years, Goodwill has paid 100% of our employees' health care premiums. The 2015 mandate that reclassified employees working 30 to 39 and a half hours as full-time employees resulted in an incremental $225,000 in health care premiums for Goodwill. With over 200 employees, our 2016 budget included $456,000 in health care premiums, reflecting a 20% premium increase, which added on $129,000 in incremental expenses. For 2017, a proposed 28.8% increase in health care has shifted the bar to the point where we're forced to consider other options, which may include a minimally acceptable health care plan. In short, we continue to pay more for less. I'm concerned that we may reach a tipping point where employed and insured workers will not be able to afford to use their health care. In response to low unemployment and a highly competitive retail environment, Goodwill increased our entry-level hourly wage in 2015. In 2016, we added the opportunity for hourly workers to earn a 50-cent an hour increase after their first 90 days of employment. You may be wondering, why am I referencing entry-level wages and health care premiums in a discussion about the new overtime law? It's very simple. They're all components of the increasing cost of doing business, or in the case of a nonprofit, the increasing cost of providing essential services in the communities we serve. It's concerning that the overtime rule may have been enacted without an in-depth review of the overall economic impact. Effective December 1st, 2016, the Department of Labor overtime rule will increase Goodwill's annual payroll by an estimated $155,000. Our operations extend beyond a traditional Monday through Friday 9 to 5 work week, as we operate extended hours 7 days a week, creating an environment where overtime is a necessity. At Goodwill, we're sharpening our pencils to manage both increased payroll and health care costs without sacrificing service delivery. Earlier this year, we launched an incentive to increase supervisory positions in order to reduce the workload of our managers. In addition, unfortunately, several positions were placed on hold while plans for growth and expansion have been slowed. We are making operational changes to increase efficiency without large capital expenditures. Management employees who remain exempt from overtime pay continue to assume a heavier and heavier workload. At Goodwill, we believe in the power of work to help change lives. We believe that we're helping children when we hire their parents. We believe in the self-esteem that is gained by feeding your family with money that's earned. We believe in the value of increasing jobs and wages to reduce the need for government assistance. We recognize the value of our workforce and their commitment to the mission of Goodwill. If local businesses do not make proper adjustments, the implication of this ruling may have long-lasting negative effects. Goodwill is committed to finding new and innovative solutions in order to continue to serve our community. Change occurs when the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same. Every business leader can tell you the price of this change. What are the unintended consequences? Will necessary overtime artificially inflate wages? How will the impact be measured? Will there be a cost-benefit analysis? What considerations will be in place before the threshold wage is increased again in 3 short years? Who decides if the pain of this change is too great? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robin, for demonstrating what the sum of the regulatory overreach is doing to our businesses. So, thank you. So we've heard from just 2 examples of employers who will be impacted by this new rule change. And as property manager at South Plains Mall, I know that retailers, restaurants, and virtually every sector of employer will be affected, especially in places like Lubbock with a lower cost of living. In fact, research conducted by the National Retail Federation shows that these regulations will force employers to limit hours or cut base pay in order to make up for added payroll costs, leaving most workers with no increase in take-home pay despite added administrative costs. A separate survey for the National Retail Federation found that the majority of retail managers and assistant managers that the regulations are supposed to help oppose this plan. So the Lubbock Chamber will continue to fight against these regulations, and we're optimistic about our efforts. But with the short-term timeline, we urge local employers to be ready by December 1st.